One, two, three, one. Hey there, Martin Taylor here. Welcome to Solo Fingerstyle Jazz Workouts. Solo Fingerstyle Jazz guitar is a truly special art form, and it requires a blend of melody, harmony, and rhythm all at once. So it isn't without its challenges, but once you get the hang of it, your playing will reach a whole new level of sophistication. I've crafted this course with 15 progressive, bite-sized workouts and play-along sessions. In each workout, we'll focus on your finger independence, harmonic knowledge, and rhythmic control to help you gradually develop the techniques needed to excel in solo fingerstyle jazz. Plus, with TrueFire's learning tools, you'll have tab sync and notation, slow-mo controls, looping, and fretboard animations, so you can learn at your own pace. Ready to dive into solo fingerstyle jazz? Grab your guitar and let's get started.
All right, what's going on, Fire Stars, and welcome to another TrueFire launch party. Today, we have an amazing person on. Martin Taylor is with us. But before we get into that, we want to do a little housekeeping. If you have any comments, please share them down in the chat, and we'll be sure to share those with Martin as we go on. Also, keep an eye on down the chat for any links to Martin's courses or anything else that you might need to know about things as we go on. Also, let us know where you're viewing from. That's something we always like to do, a little bit of check-in. But now we need to get the man with the plan on here, the one who's going to run the show, the wonderful and incomparable Jeffrey Sheets. Jeff, how are you doing this evening?
I am spectacular this afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and I'm happy to see that you're very good. I know you're happy about your team being in the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, I have to say, when you live in Kansas City and you're a football fan, it's pretty good right now, right? But we had 50 years of bad times, so you got to cut me a little slack and let me enjoy my moment. So, yeah, good times. It's going to be awesome. But forget about that, because we're here for a pretty awesome event today, and I'm stoked. I think everybody's going to really enjoy this. We've got Martin Taylor here, and he's going to talk about some different things. The new course, he has several courses at TrueFire. You know, you may have known him for all the work he's done in the past. He also has a pretty awesome thing we're going to talk about, which is his new TrueFire channel. It's already like blowing up. There's so many students that are already enrolled in the channel. Getting a lot of cool interaction with Martin. So we'll talk about that coming up, but we'll talk about his courses. We'll go through the course a little bit, and going to give you guys all the opportunity to ask questions. So if you've got any questions for Martin, drop them in the chat. You know, it's pretty awesome to be able to sit here and talk to, you know, someone who's, you know, like, I mean, embarrassing to say he's a living legend, but, you know, he's like one of the best, the finest jazz players, you know, in the world. And he's just hanging out with us here this afternoon, or it's late night rather, where he is. So without further ado, let's bring him on camera. Martin, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm pretty good, thanks. Yeah, I hope you can hear me okay. And
Absolutely.
I'm here at home. I'm in Scotland, in my studio.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful.
I'm really excited to
backdrop
see you guys. Oh, yeah, it's nice. One or two
Very,
guitars.
very good. So how's the weather there in Scotland right now?
I've just come in. I've been walking my dog and out by the river, and it's cold. It's cold. Scotland.
That's what's supposed to be in Scotland, right? Cold and wet. That's what we think about when we think about Scotland. So, you know,
it's not always like that, but it's days a year.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, Martin, we want to talk a little bit about the solo fingerstyle jazz workouts. You know, we'll talk about that course. We'll start off with that. I see a lot of people already, you know, putting in the chat that they've already bought the course. They've got it. If you haven't got it, we're going to link. We'll throw a link in the chat. Shane will throw that in there so you guys can go check it out. Snag this course, because it's really what I think is an interesting course, in that it really gives some practical ways to work on fingerstyle. You know, it's not like, oh, here you have to learn this enormous piece that's, you know, is going to take you 2 years to figure out. You've sort of put together these workouts that are achievable for people. So talk a little bit about that, about just the concept of, you know, making something that, you know, people can actually jump in and start working on.
Yeah, well, you know, it's kind of about building up of things that we can play, if you like. But there's a vocabulary that when you're in chord sequences, there's different things that you can do, and you discover your own along the way. But to get started, you know, it's like learning. I always think it's like learning a language. It's like having a phrase book. So say, okay, here's a few phrases that you can play with. You can play around with that. You can use this exactly the way it is. But what I'd really encourage you to do is just use that as a starting point, and then start finding your own thing. That's what I did. You know, I used to listen to my dad's Django Reinhardt records, and musicians like the old jazz saxophone players like Ben Webster, and I'd just hear one phrase that they liked, and I would kind of copy it, and then I'd realize, oh, I could put that in somewhere else, and that was all building up that jazz vocabulary. So think of it kind
That's
of
awesome.
like a phrase.
That's awesome. Love it. So give us a little example. Play a little something. Show us kind of how you might do that. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly stuff from the course, but if you were going to do that and sort of build something, kind of give us a taste of that.
Well, actually, you know, when I recorded those, I just kind of made them up on the spot. I knew like the chord sequence or the turnaround, and then I just improvised a whole bunch of different ideas. So if I had a sequence like in the key of C, C major seventh, E minor seventh, A seventh, D minor seventh, G seven, C, that kind of thing. I showed different ways that you could go around playing that. There's one there. So just different ideas for turnarounds, and that's how I think of it that way, like a phrase book. You know, you learn. You know, you go to Spain, and if you can't speak Spanish, then you just learn a few phrases to go along. You don't get out some great books of Spanish literature and start reading the equivalent of Spain's William Shakespeare, or you wouldn't get a Spanish dictionary and learn that way. You would learn by just learning a few phrases, then speaking to people who were native Spanish speakers or could speak Spanish, and then from those little phrases that you've learned, then you start to hear other people using phrases. I lived in France for a number of years, and that's how I kind of learned. I never studied French, but I knew little bits of French, and then I would start to hear people speaking and using words slightly different and finding other phrases, and that's how it expanded. So my vocabulary began to expand. I think I can play guitar a lot better than I can speak French, but it's the same kind of idea.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. So when you're playing that, so you take that chord progression, for example, and then when you're going to expand it, are you thinking about like the arpeggios around the chord? Are you thinking about scale? Are you just looking at the chord tones? Kind of what's your approach, or what would you suggest someone does to sort of get into that, right? Because even if they can just play the chords, great, but how do they add something to it?
Well, the way I got into playing was because my dad was a bass player. My dad was a jazz bass player. and I used to sit and listen to him, and I just used to focus on the root note all the time. So what I do, rather than, in jazz you see chords and they have lots of extended notes in them and intervals, and I just break it down basically to the root note, and is it a major or is it a minor? That's kind of it. And I learned a lot of that from working with piano players in the early days, because probably for the first 15 years that I played, or even more than that, I was playing in bands. I didn't play solo guitar. I was interested in learning how to do that and finding a way of doing that. But I used to play in bands, and I used to watch the piano player left hand and how they played in those tenths. So you got a major, tenth, minor, 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 major, and it's a wonderful framework. So even when you play something that is, a sequence that's a little more involved, a bit complicated, a kind of a that kind of thing. In my mind, I just think minor, 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 major, 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 minor, major, major, minor, minor, major, major. I keep it very simple. I'm a simple guy. You see, I didn't go to college that wasn't happening. When I started to play, I was fortunate that my dad played and his friends played, and I just used to hang out and kind of listen to what they were doing and figured it out that way. And it wasn't till many years later, it was probably, maybe only about 15 years ago when I started to, not even that, 10 years ago when I started to teach, I had to look at what I was doing, and think, what is it I actually do? Because I'd never thought about it. And that was one of the things that struck me straight away. I thought, that's what I do. I always use that kind of structure. I just think of the root. And it's simplifying everything. What we don't want to do is overwhelm ourselves with too much information, because then we won't play anything. It's too much. It will all have gone by then.
That's a great way to look at it. I love it. So we got a couple questions coming in. One is, is this course, would you consider this course suitable for someone who's beginning fingerstyle or who's just getting into fingerstyle playing? Would you think this is, or do you think they need to have a little bit of skill first?
Well, as far as the skill side of it goes, I don't think, it's not like you've got to be a virtuoso fingerstyle player. As long as you have a basic command of the instrument. We're really learning two things when we play a musical instrument. We're learning the skill and the art, but we need to have a certain technical command of the instrument. I know when I did start to play solo, I had all these ideas. I used to listen to Bill Evans and Oscar Peterson playing on piano. I think I'd love to be able to do things like that on the guitar. So I had these ideas, and they were floating around, and I could kind of hear them in my head. But when I went to play, I couldn't play them because I couldn't actually play the guitar well enough. So my ideas, my musicality, the art was kind of formed in my head, but the skill wasn't there. So I had to really, as we'd say, kind of up my game and learn to play. But I think it's a piece of advice I would really have is that never try to play something that you can't sing. Because you're going to have difficulties with that, because we want to connect ourselves with the instrument. And if you can sing it, where the notes are on there, and you've got a command of the instrument. You don't have to be a virtuoso player, as I say, but you can play the guitar. Where everything is. You sing it. You should be able to play it. But if you try to play things that you can't articulate singing wise or hear, then it's going to be a lot trickier to do. You won't get that kind of flow. So it's getting the skill and the art on par with each other. You know, my art idea were up there, my skill level was down here, and I had to kind of bring them slowly bring it up so I could actually play what I was thinking.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Get the good balance between art and skill. I like it. I like it. Okay, well, it's a couple more questions. Just here's one. Do you use nails on your right hand? Are you using the nails of your right hand to play? Give us a little right hand technique tip here.
I do. Now, the thing about the nails for me is the nails are quite short. Actually, it's not real long. If you can see it here. Now the thing is, I shape it the same shape as the tips of my fingers. They're just a little long at the moment. This is something I learned from listening to wind instrument players. I noticed when I worked with like clarinet players, saxophone players, horn players, when they played a note, there was always that little bit of air first before you actually heard the hitting the note, and it creates a warmth in the sound. So this way, when I play a note, my first contact with the string is actually with the flesh of my finger at the end, but then it follows through with the nail, which is hitting the note, is the centering the note. So rather than having we've got a little bit of a th at the beginning, so it thickens the sound. The sound is now quite a lot thicker than if I just played with the nail. If I just played with the flesh, it'd be more that sound. But with the two together, it's a kind of thinner sound when it's just the nail. Very round with just with the flesh. And then the other thing about that is then you've got a kind of a tone control there, because you can go from having quite a bright sound to something quite mellow. So I wouldn't hit every note exactly the same kind of way, you know, just sometimes it's more of an attack with the nail, sometimes it's more with the flesh. But that's the idea, is hit it first of all with the flesh, which gives you that warmth, that breathiness to it, and then you get the attack with the nail.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff right there. That's I think a good tip for everyone to try. Everybody's going to be trying that, because sometimes we think, oh, it's either one or the other, but in your case, you're sort of getting the best of both worlds, really. So it makes it pretty cool. So yeah. Awesome. This course, you've done several courses at TrueFire, but this one, has some really cool things in it. I think Tommy's going to give us a little demo here of just for anyone that's not familiar, anyone that's watching this, and maybe they're not familiar with how courses work at TrueFire. We'll show you a little bit about what you can do with one of these courses, the ability to loop things, to go in and slow things down. It's pretty amazing. So Tommy, jump on here and give us a little demo, would you?
Yeah. Hey, Martin.
Hey, how you doing? I'm just taking a quick photo of that screen there.
Yeah, what I thought we would do for all of the viewers is take a quick look at the courses that you have with us. So we started out talking about this solo fingerstyle jazz workouts. That one, obviously the newest one, and to the one question, the one viewer earlier asking about, is it for beginners? I would say that one is, would you agree, probably the best one for people that are trying to work their way into playing solo fingerstyle jazz. I mean, the approach we took on that one was keep everything very simple and just add in a little bit at a time over a series of workouts that we broke into like different chord progressions, right? So that one is what that one is. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about these others, and then we'll roll a little bit. The first one we did together was Dimensions of Solo Jazz Guitar. Do you want to give the viewers a quick rundown of what these courses really, where would someone start if they were looking for different types of things?
Yeah. Okay. Well, probably the solo fingerstyle workouts, as you say, is a really good way to get started because we've just got these kind of bite-sized chunks that you can work on, and you can. I give different chord sequences and turnarounds, and giving examples, those little phrase book ideas. Then with dimensions of solo jazz, then dimensions of solo jazz guitar, then you can start to see where those workouts kind of fit in, because with the kind of jazz repertoire, you've got a lot of chord sequences that are very familiar. They kind of they turn up all the time in one form or another, or certainly a lot of the kind of harmonic turnaround show up all the time. So everything is transferable. So if you learn something, if you come up with something that you really like on a particular, on 3 chords, a 3 or 4 chord turnaround, it doesn't need to be just on that one tune that you learnt it, because you'll identify those chord changes in all the other tunes as well.
And then this one I thought was really, I mean, we did the same sort of approach, but with a focus on bossa nova in dimensions of bossa nova guitar. So those two really good if you are familiar with playing solo fingerstyle and you want to sort of, at least you have some of the technical capacity down and you want to learn to how to apply more personality into some of that repertoire you talked about. This one was really cool. Tell everyone about the 10 principles of jazz accompaniment with Allison.
Yeah, well, this was a really interesting night. I really enjoyed doing this course with Alison Burns. She's a wonderful singer. She also happens to be my daughter-in-law as well. So we're a kind of a family band, a bit like the Partridge Family, I guess, if you remember that. And we would talk a lot about accompanying and working together in a duo situation. And I was always conscious of if I'm in the role of accompanying, I think, what does that person I'm accompanying, what do they need? And for 11 years I toured with Stefan Grappelli, Stefan Grappelli and Django Reinhardt, the Hot Club of France. So 11 years I was with Stefan, and a lot of the role I did, I used to get a chance to play and solo and kind of fly my kite, but a lot of the time I was accompanying. And I love that role as well. It's just not all about being the soloist. And working with him, and then working with a number of other musicians and singers as well, I really got into that, the satisfaction that I would get actually working with another instrumentalist, and particularly a singer as well. Because one of the things about a singer, they've got that added dimension there. They've got the lyrics. So they're telling a story. And even though I'm an instrumentalist, I approach how I play, and when I play my solo gigs, if I play my concerts, it's like I'm sitting up on stage as a storyteller. And I don't just kind of play things randomly. I do speak in between some of the tunes and explain things, which helps kind of narrate the story a little bit. So there's so many things we have to do as an accompanist to listen to what's going on, so that you can merge. Also, a lot of my students also sing. So and I think that's the ultimate. If you sing and you play guitar, nobody can really accompany you, because you've got that. We play together along telepathy going on there. So sometimes we're kind of thinking as one mind, but it doesn't always work that way. But if you can accompany yourself, it really is a wonderful thing. And sometimes, this is the other thing about accompaniment, it's not all about just being slightly in the background. It's not like the Queen with Prince Philip 3 steps behind.
Yeah, why don't we play them we play him one of these really quick
Yeah, sure.
and illustrate some of the things that you're saying, and then we'll play one from the solo jazz workouts too. I think that one, it's a great one for a lot of people to check out as well. But want to roll a little bit of T for 2, the demonstration. Let's take a look.
How is that for you?
Picture you upon my knee, just T for 2 and 2 for T, just me for you and you for me alone.
So you could see, this is actually an excerpt from the course where you guys are picking out the right key, right? Things like picking out the right key, coming up with an intro part, establishing the mood and the tempo for the tune. And then ultimately, this is the full performance, which you get to in the end of each set. And I think we worked through 5 different tunes in this one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And just amazing performances.
Picture you upon my knee, just T for 2 and 2 for T, just me for you and you for me alone. Nobody near us to see us or hear us, no friends or relations on weekend vacations. We won't have it known, dear, that we own a telephone. Day will break and I'll awake and start to bake a sugar cake for me to take for all the boys to see.
Okay, I gotta pause it there. We probably picked the tune with the longest and most
I was thinking that.
the most amazing intro of the 5 tunes, but I wanted everyone to get a taste for Allison's voice, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And guys, just so you know, the way that I wanted to give you a little bit of a tour, and I'm already overrunning my time in the program, Jeff. Sorry, but the tools here are great. If you just want to pick up a phrase at a time, you can create loops here. You can slow the tempo down all the way down to half speed if you want. So there's a lot of great learning tools built right into the experience here that just make it much easier to learn, especially with Fingerstyle. And then again, if you take that and if you are still sort of working your way into Fingerstyle and building repertoire, a great place to start, I would say, is probably with the solo Fingerstyle jazz workouts. Let me just play a real quick one, Jeff, if you don't mind, just one more minute. I want people to get a taste of this because it's a lot more simple. We're going to take 4-bar, 4 shapes in this first etude. We're going to work on a really simple version. Then we're going to play it together. And then we're going to go to the next level and add a little bit more sophistication to it. Just a little bit, right? Sort of a step-by-step, building approach into more and more complexity. But look, I think most people could probably, if you have at least a little bit of the technique down, you could probably at least get in there and work on one of these first exercises, you can see just from the notation that we're looking at, something much more simple.
Okay, now grab your guitar. That first workout that I've shown you, we're going to play that together. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So as you can see, right, that's where we're starting from. And we really build up in this course to, it's a great, great resource for anyone looking to get into solo jazz, fingerstyle approaches. So there you go, Jeff. I'm gonna kick myself out of here, return the show to you guys, and pick up where we left off. But I wanted folks to get a taste of some of the things in the catalog on TrueFire with Martin. Great stuff.
Yep. Super good stuff. Thanks, Tommy. Yeah. The ability, someone was just talking about in the chat, the ability to slow things down, to loop a section and slow it down. It's like, makes it learning, much easier. You can really break things down. And the tab that's, synced up to the video all the time. It's a pretty cool way to dig in there and learn some stuff. We got a few more questions, Martin. So let's do those. So what's your best advice on how someone can basically develop their phrasing and their expression? How do you develop that? Are you listening to a lot of other stuff and trying things? You mentioned singing it, right? Which is a great way to do that, to sort of connect the instrument to you. But what other tips do you have on developing, unique or your own phrasing?
Well, I think for me, playing a melody or playing anything that's, melodic lines, I've listened a lot to singers, obviously, some of the great jazz singers, and also wind instrument players, because they've got to breathe. We don't have to breathe, so we can just keep on going, and it sounds great sometimes, but there's times when you can just add some air into the whole thing. And when you're playing the kind of music that I play, which is a melodic form of jazz, we're trying to create that same kind of feeling as a singer or as a horn player. So you've got these breaths. So I always say, when everyone starts to improvise and playing single line improvisations, to just play play short phrases and breathe with it. Actually make yourself breathe with the phrase. So breathe, breathe. 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 Etc.
Yeah.
And just consciously do that. Imagine you're playing a wind instrument, and immediately the way you improvise will start to sound more meaningful. It will stop sounding like you're playing scales, which is very easy to fall into, especially on the guitar. We don't have to breathe. We can just keep on playing and keep on playing. So I think it helps a lot with that kind of melodic improvisation. Breathe with the music.
Good. Breathing. We should all be breathing. That's a good that's a good tip, right? A good tip.
I'm keeping to it as long as I can.
It's better than the alternative, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about some of your courses. I want to get into talking about your channel, right? So for everyone, if you don't know, I know there's a lot of folks on here that are already in your channel. If anyone doesn't know, Martin has put together this channel, sort of a place for him to not only, there's hundreds of videos in there, all kinds of amazing educational things, but it's also a cool place for interactivity, right? To interact with other students and to interact with Martin himself, who's in there doing things and answering questions, doing stuff in the channel. There's a couple of different subscriptions. It's called Fraternity, which is a great name. The Fraternity of Martin Taylor. But there's a couple different levels. There's a $10 level, which is awesome, gives you a lot of stuff. There's a $19.99 level, which also gives you a monthly live jam session that Martin leads, and some really cool stuff. So, just tell us for a minute, Martin, about how you think about the channel and why you sort of wanted to put this channel together with a little bit more, hands-on, if you will, kind of thing with students.
Well, my approach to the whole thing is kind of non-academic, really. It's very light on theory. Obviously, I have lead sheets. I have tab for the melodies, but I wanted to, rather than teach players how to play arrangements, I want them to learn to make their own arrangements. So I'm going through every month I teach a tune, and the first week we just go through the foundation of the whole tune. We learn the melody. We learn the chord sequence, the structure, and we get the feel. So as if you're an accompanist. Second week we get into the melody. We get into some improvisation, variations, as you were saying, phrasing, all of these things. Then in the third week, we put it all together, and I guide everybody through coming up with their own solo arrangement. So it's not like they're copying my solo arrangement, because I don't have kind of set in stone arrangements anyway. I'm an improviser, so I change things all the time. And learning it this way, what we're doing, you've got to learn the foundation, you've got to learn the roots. If you only learn from the music or notation or the tab, you're learning the surface level. You're not learning everything underneath that created that. When you hear a guitar player that you like, and you say, "Oh, I'd love to play like that," yeah, you can get the tab, you can get the notation, you can watch them play on a video. That's fine, but you cannot get into. That's fine, because you can learn it exactly the way it is, but then when you want to learn another tune that way, you have to start at zero again. This way, if you start from the foundation, you learn another tune, you're already kind of 50% there, because you understand how music is made, how it's structured, the foundation of it. So I don't teach set arrangements. I get everyone to come up with their own arrangement, but I show you how to do that, and I guide you through it. And then we have every month we have a Q&A session, and also we have a jam club where we meet up and we all just jam along. And whenever anybody puts up a video of something they've been working on, I'll give them advice with that. I'll film a video with a few tips, and I'll just say, "Hey, try this." And I really want my guitar students to become creative musicians, not to just copy. But that's fine. We all have to copy. I've did that. That's how I really got into playing. Again, going back to language, we learn our native language from childhood, from our mother speaking to us, from people around us. So we don't really think about it. So this is the same thing. So it just it's another language.
That's great. That's a great way to look at it. And yeah, I think that's one of the cool things I see happening in your channel also is students have the ability to post a video. They have ability to comment and on each other's video, and it's very supportive kind of a group, which I think is super important. Everyone that's in there is sort of in there for the same reasons and trying to develop their creativity and understand that concept of how to make their own arrangement, to take a song and do what you hear in your head, not just what someone else heard in their head. Right. So I think that's very cool.
there's nothing more satisfying than coming up with your own arrangement, finding your own way, and building up that vocabulary again. And you find ways that work. Oh, this is what I did on that tune. I can do a similar thing on this one. And of course, it extends from there to become writing your own music, composing your own music as well, coming up with your own songs.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to do one question, and then we'll jump into another segment. But kind of off what you said, which is, you certainly learn from other people when you started out and stuff. So someone's asking, who are some of your guitar influences? So if you were looking back at the early days, who did you really listen to and go, man, that's got me excited about playing?
Well, the first guitar player that got me playing was Django Reinhardt, because my dad used to play. That was the first music I ever heard. I was listening to that before I was born. And then, my dad was play those records. His friends used to come round and play. And I just remember hearing it. And as I got just a little bit, when I was still a little kid, I heard lots of other music as well. I heard other guitar players. My dad used to play records. But then I couldn't really articulate it. But I remember saying once to my dad, the thing about when I hear Django, it's like he's speaking to me. Nice. And I realized then it was that direct communication that you can do with music. It was this very, very melodic, improvisational way of playing that's just really hits you directly. And I thought, I want to do that. And as much as I like listening to music, I actually wanted to be in there and doing it. So when they got together on a Saturday afternoon with his friends in the house, I used to sit there, and eventually I'd get to pick up a guitar. So it's because of Django, first of all. Then my dad listened to a lot of early music as well, early jazz, like Eddie Lang and Joe Venuti. So I heard a lot of those early guys. Also, a relative of ours was a musician, and he used to work with quite a lot of the Delta blues musicians that came over to Europe, and he worked with Big Bill Brunzi, and he would come back very often from working in Germany, and he'd have all these records. I had all these Big Bill Brunzi records, and I just loved that kind of Delta blues where you cannot play jazz unless you can play the blues.
Yeah,
because it's where it comes from. So you've got to. That's another thing that will put a real soul into your playing is the blues. So then I heard, I found a record in my dad's collection, and the only reason I put it on because there was a very attractive lady on the front cover, and her name was Shirley Scott, and she was a jazz B3 organ player. Wow, what a player. And she could really swing playing. But the guitar player was Kenny Burrell. And I fell in love with his sound and his feel. Then I heard Barney Kessel, all the earlier guys, Herb Ellis. And that was really what started me into playing. And then I really kind of took that route back to where, jazz was from, back to the other side of the Atlantic, from where Django and where we're all from, and delved into the American music, and but at the same time, my dad used to play records of Fats Waller and Art Tatum, all these piano players, like stride piano players, and I said, I'd love to be able to do that. Again, I had these in my head, but I couldn't play it,
Yeah.
like stride, with the stride piano. And then it sowed that seed in my mind that I wanted to play solo guitar. One day, my dad came back home. He had a record. He was a big fan of Ella Fitzgerald. He was absolutely in love with Ella Fitzgerald. And he put this record on, and it stopped me in my tracks. He said, this guitar player, he plays kind of the way you're trying to play. So he put this record on. Of course, it was Joe Pass, and I said, "Yeah, that's it." And I would just sit along and I would play along with that. And at the same time, I met a guitar player in the UK called Ike Isaacs, who played guitar with Stefan Grappelli, two guitar players before me. And he kind of took me under his wing. We started to do a regular Thursday night gig together. And I didn't take lessons from him. I never had lessons from anybody. I just kind of fumbled my way through things. But I just used to sit and absorb everything with him, what he was doing, and copy. I would copy him. And then I would, a friend of mine used to say to me sometimes, he said, "You're starting to sound a bit too much like Ike at the moment." So I knew what he meant. So I knew that I just had to develop my own way of playing. And of course, all these great players that I used to listen to, I never thought this would happen. But I got to know them, I became friends with them, and I worked with them. I worked with Joe Pass, I worked with Tout Farlow, Barney and Kessel Herb, Mundell Lowe, and, it was quite amazing. The time and the place was absolutely right for me, that I was this young guy getting to play with these really legendary players. I mean, 11 years sitting next to Stefan Grappelli in Django Reinhardt's chair. That's the kind of thing you pinch yourself and you think, what am I doing here?
Those are great stories, man. That is, hey, the beautiful thing is you develop your thing, and you develop your thing to where people are like, man, if I could just do that Martin Taylor thing, if I could do that now. So that's cool. I mean, that's what it's all about. You took it, did your thing.
That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to teach the way I learned to play music. Obviously, with you guys, with TrueFire, this was unimaginable. I mean, when I ordered my first record of Wes Montgomery, I had to order it and it arrived 2.5 months later. I was at fever pitch by the time it arrived. And now we've got everything at our fingers, Yeah. If I wanted to learn a tune, I had to find somebody that knew it. Could you know such and such a tune? No, but I think so-and-so does. I get on a train and go about 60 miles to meet somebody. Could you teach me the chords to Body and Soul? Yeah. Now, this is just so amazing. We would never have thought of this.
Yeah, it is amazing. It definitely makes things much easier for people that want to dig into stuff. There's a lot of opportunities here. So I know we're coming up, getting close, but we should bring Shane back on, because Shane probably has a segment. Do you got a segment, Shane, while we're here?
I've got something queued up for Martin.
Okay, well, Martin, I'm going to turn you over to the hands of Shane, and if you can always wave a white flag if you need to, get out of here. I'll jump back in, but otherwise, take it away, Shane, my friend.
All right, Martin Taylor Swift, if that is your real name. Word on the street is that you're Scottish. Is this true?
Well, I was born in England, so I always say I was born in England, made in Scotland.
Made in Scotland. Okay.
Yeah, but I lived in Scotland all my life. Yeah.
That is good enough for this segment, because I'm going to need you to prove it to me, okay? So what I have is a series of quotes by either Robert Burns, Winston Churchill, or Sean Connery. You're going to tell me who said what, all right? First up, my heart is in the Highlands. My heart is not here. My heart is in the Highlands, a-chasing a deer. Was that by Sean Connery, Winston Churchill, or Robert Burns?
Well, Robert Burns wasn't a Highlander, he was a Lowlander, but he did come to the Highlands, so it could have been Robert Burns.
Correct. Very good. You got that one right. Next up, of all the small nations of this earth, perhaps only the ancient Greeks surpass the Scots in their contribution to mankind. Was that Sean Connery, Robert Burns, or Winston Churchill?
Winston Churchill.
Good job. All right. We're almost through this. Not yet. This one is, I'm not an Englishman. I was never an Englishman, and I don't ever want to be one. I am a Scotsman. I was a Scotsman, and I will always be a Scotsman. Was that Winston Churchill, Sean Connery, or Robert Burns?
That sounds very much like Sean Connery.
It is Sean Connery. I got one more for you. This one is...
I hope I don't make a mistake here.
This is very good. Bring back Sean Connery from the dead. All right. All right. Are you ready for this one?
Okay.
If I was invisible for the day, I think I'd kick a mime artist to death. Was that Sean Connery, Winston Churchill, or Robert Burns? You need me to repeat it?
It sounds like something Billy Connolly would have said, but
You're right to be feeling that you were thrown off. It was not Connolly though.
No, I think that could have been Churchill.
It was not Winston Churchill. That was actually Frankie Boyle. That was a little curveball for you.
Oh, Frankie Boyle. Now you got me there.
I've got a few Frankie Boyle quotes. Yeah, I know you are. You and I spoke about Frankie Boyle when you were down here.
We did, I remember.
And I went on a search to find the best quotes of Frankie Boyle's that I could share without having the channel completely taken off the air.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's why I didn't think it would have been Frankie Boyle, because there's nothing we could have said here without getting TrueFire shut down.
Yeah, I've only got, I'll give you one more Frankie Boyle quote, and then we're going to go into a fast-paced this or that. This one is, people say that Steve Jobs died too soon, but I think it was a fitting metaphor for his company attitude towards battery life. Pretty good one. All right, moving on.
I just thought of a Frankie Boyle quote, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it in my head because I can't let this one out. Honestly,
we'll come back to it off air. All right.
Okay.
So I have a list here of different foods. Some of them American, some of them Scottish. Right.
Okay.
So you are going to be put in the position of choosing which is better. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
All right. First up. Is it a hamburger or do you like haggis better?
I'm a vegetarian, but we do get vegetarian haggis.
And what do they put in that? Just garbage?
Everything except the animal. it's various. It's the oats and various pieces of dust and pepper, I think.
So it's just sheep wool that they put in there. They boil it for a while.
Yeah, but I mean, real haggis, you don't want to know what's in it anyway. That's if you did know, you would be a vegetarian like me.
Well, so now I'm just gonna have to preface the rest of these as the vegetarian version of whatever it is. So a vegetarian hot dog or vegetarian Scotch pie.
Well, do you know, many years ago, when I was a young man, I did used to like Scotch pies. Now I couldn't even imagine eating one. I used to like them when they used to put beans in the top, baked beans. Very nice. And then you'd put a bit of brown sauce on the top. It's, clogs up your arteries,
I think we call that gravy in the States.
No, this isn't quite gravy. No, this is another. This is a very difficult thing for Americans to say. It's Worcester sauce.
Oh, I say Worcestershire.
Yeah. Yeah. Always catch Americans out with that one. Worcestershire.
Let's see, vegetarian mac and cheese or macaroni pie. And what exactly is a macaroni pie?
A macaroni pie. It's like a Scotch pie, but with macaroni in it. Oh. So I could eat that.
Oh, nice. Let's see. I don't know what this one is, so you'll have to tell me. Buffalo wings or Lorne sausage?
Oh, Lorne sausage. Yeah, I'll tell you what Lorne sausage is. Well, I couldn't eat that one either. But if I was on a desert island and it's all I could eat, I'd probably go for a Lorne sausage.
Oh, right.
I do remember eating Lorne sausage, and it was very nice. I remember.
All right, let's see. We'll do one more. This is one that I am curious about. Chocolate chip cookies or shortbread cookies or biscuits? Do you call them cookies or biscuits?
We call them biscuits, but biscuits are different. Certainly in the southern states, a biscuit's like what we call a cracker, but a cracker means something else in the southern. I think. See, English it varies all over the world, doesn't it? You can get get into trouble.
That flows into like another question I was going to ask you before they're going to pull me off with one of those sticks. Is that what are your favorite Scottish idioms that you can teach the audience that's watching right now?
Oh well, what words and phrases?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something you would yell at somebody.
A wee boil you heat.
Wee boil you heat.
A wee boil you heat.
And what does that mean?
Go away and boil your head. It means
Go away, boy.
someone's talking rubbish. You say, "Okay, we boil your heat."
Oh, I tried to
I'm
repeat it, and I
bilingual.
just
I can
sounded
speak.
Jamaican.
I sound English, but I can speak Scottish too. That's a good one. Another good one actually is on the east coast of Scotland. They have pies called bridies, a bridie,
Okay.
and one of the things you learn to say is to order them. You say twa bridies and an onion and a no. That means 2 bridies and 1 with onions.
2 bridies and 1 with onions.
Yeah, twa bridies and an onion and a no.
Well, we've all learned a little bit of something here.
There you
I'm gonna
go.
pull myself off of here because
Absolutely.
it sounds like they're getting a little antsy in the chat. So screw you guys. But thank you so much, Martin. I can't wait to see you down here again. You're a wonderful person. You're one of my favorite people on the planet, and I will see you soon.
I look forward to seeing you again soon. Looking forward to getting back there.
Yes, thank you, Shane, for a little deviation from the norm. Well, Martin, someone had a question about, and you may remember this. This is taking you back to the '90s. You played a song in the '90s in Sri Lanka, dedicated to your father. Do you know what that song was?
No, I can't remember.
I don't. This is what this person recalls, but it could not be. They could be misrecalling.
I think I know. I'll have to think about it because I've been to Sri Lanka a few times, and a Sri Lankan friend of mine always spoke to me about that because he said, I can't remember what the tune was at the moment. It wasn't my own tunes, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's good.
A friend of mine,
it's good to know that someone was there in the '90s, and they're still here with us, following along here. But
yeah.
So thank you so much for all the stuff you do. Once again, everybody, I want you to really check out Martin's Fraternity channel. If you haven't done that, check that out. All of his courses. The new solo fingerstyle workouts one is really some cool stuff in there, and it's, once again, what I like about it, it's very accessible. So let's play something. Let's hear it. The guitar sounding great, by the way. What kind of strings do you use? What size of strings do you use?
Okay, these are Elixir Nano Web, which I use. Can you hear me okay? I've just got the microphone. I've got a little amp here, and I don't know if this is working.
That's great.
What would you like me to play?
Just give us a little taste of what you like to play. If you're just sitting there by yourself and no one's around, what would you play? That's beautiful, my friend. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was
for
difficult.
sharing that.
I've got a delay in my
So you
hands.
little delay of your guitar. Oh, that's pretty good for having a delay in in your headphones.
Hey,
Thank you so much for being here. Once again, everybody, check out Martin's courses at TrueFire. Go check out his channel if you haven't done that. The channel is like a something you should really do. And everything Martin does is amazing. So we thank you so much for being here, Martin. Thanks to everybody for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Tommy. And we will see you guys on the next live event.
Thank you. You guys, you're the best. I always say that. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Come
Martin.
on the channel. It's a great community.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.